In SunWest, you have been hearing many different terms to describe the processes and components of our division's Pebble initiative. If you are new to our team, you will soon begin to hear these terms: inquiry-based, project-based, design thinking, reorder, and the Pebble pyramid of growth, to name a few. Either way, it seems reasonable that you might be overwhelmed with information or be wondering about the best way to implement Pebble. This video was created to help make sense of all these terms and acronyms and provide practical tools with which to continue down your own unique Pebble path. Firstly, a reminder about the 3 core sets of activities or foundations upon which Pebble is built: culture building, character building, and skills and knowledge building. When it comes to culture, the reorder framework is a tool we use to help us better understand how to create a school or classroom culture that compels great learning. Each school has reorder posters hung throughout their classrooms and hallways to help both teachers and students remember the 7 elements: relationships, environment, opportunities, resources, distribution of leadership, evaluation, and recognition. Character has been identified as a core foundation area because of the connection to self-regulation and other skills such as grit, without which students are not in a position to be effective when having more voice and choice in their learning. To help us explicitly teach character, there are a variety of great tools being used throughout our division. 21st Century Competencies, Buckley's Secret Skills, and the Character Day Periodic Chart are just a few tools being used to identify specific elements of character that we hope our learners will embody. And building skills and knowledge is about employing effective instructional and assessment strategies in our classrooms. There is a host of strategies at our disposal, and in this video we are going to dig further into this area. The intent is to help you better understand how to assess a particular situation and to be intentional about how you think about designing learning opportunities. Skills and knowledge building is really about great teaching practices, of which we have endless examples and models already in our classrooms. Congratulations, you're doing it. We want to share all of that work amongst the whole division and ensure that everyone has access to the tools and supports required to continue growing. As you all know, there are many factors at play when designing a learning experience. The key to making great decisions is to reflect on the factors that influence those decisions and to be deliberate in your evaluation and application of them. So let's talk about the factors. In the simplest of terms, they can be easily remembered as the 6 W's: where, when, who, how, what, and why. Let's first take a look at where. In other words, the spaces in which learning occurs. You might ask yourself, where do students need to be to do their best work? In a classroom setting? Where might they like to sit, or lay, bounce, perch, or huddle? To read, write, use technology? For students who work best alone, are there places conducive to independent work? Does the learning environment accommodate group work? Can I work with students one-on-one? You might also consider the decor or feel of the spaces. Are there carpeted areas, draped or tented areas, throw pillows, spaces with multiple heights? Is the lighting adequate? Are there windows or places for natural light to enter the room? And what is the temperature of the space? Perhaps there are options to learn outside of the classroom. These same questions can be asked when it comes to libraries, computer labs, hallways, or even outdoor spaces. While asking yourself these questions is important, once they become familiar with their learner profile, students will also have great suggestions about how to create the ideal learning environment. Designing spaces together engages and empowers students in a meaningful way. The second consideration is when. The time, pace, and duration in which learning occurs. Here you might ask yourself questions like, are there goals around the pace and duration of the learning? Do the students have choice in how long they must work on a particular task? Can they work on it during class time only, or can it be done outside of those hours? Perhaps the opposite is true. If they complete the task early, are there opportunities to extend or master the skills and knowledge base? If they don't complete it in the allotted time, are there supports in place to help them complete it? How refers to the resources from where skills and knowledge are obtained. Ask yourself, Do I encourage students to use a wide variety of sources? Do they have access to an assortment of materials in both hard copy and digital formats? Would it be helpful to watch a demonstration or reach out to a local expert, or perhaps go on a field trip? Peers are another invaluable resource. As is often the case, students collect and explore and debate information with peers in really engaging ways. And students, by journaling and reflecting on knowledge they already have, can also begin to make new connections. It is important to remember that technology may or may not be the best tool to use in any given situation. Your role here is to ensure that students understand how to access information, how to discern its accuracy, and how to explore and think critically about the information. Who is the fourth consideration, with or from whom one learns. Are the students given a choice to work independently or in a group? Can they choose the members of their group, and if so, based on what criteria? Similar interests? Opposite or complementary skill sets? Do they understand enough about their learner profile and that of their peers to make educated choice about who can best support or challenge them in completing the task? Is the teacher the best support? Would the student benefit from face-to-face, either in a group or one-on-one with the teacher? Asking who again prompts learner to consider seeking assistance or expertise beyond an immediate circle of peers. Older students, parents, and community members can provide great insight and perspective. It is important that students know how to locate and initiate a discussion with these supports. What can be one of the more difficult or less often considered areas in which to invite student voice and choice? The approach a learner uses to meet curricular outcomes. Are the students invited to choose what approach they use to explore a particular outcome? Do they have a say in whether they choose to tackle a problem, or ask an open-ended question and dive into the research, or create a physical solution to build something as a way of learning? As teachers, we have access to an endless list of strategies that we can apply to help a student explore a topic or idea, from problem-based and inquiry-based to design thinking and case-based learning. Each of us chooses strategies that we prefer or are more familiar with. And that's great. Most of these options invite student voice and choice in determining some aspects of how they learn. Within the what headspace, you might also want to ask yourself, in what ways are students invited to demonstrate their learning? Have you prepared an exam? Do students submit assignments? Create a project of some kind? Is there an oral component? Do they have choice in how they provide evidence of their work? Perhaps the most critical consideration is why. Encouraging students to be mindful of why they are learning helps develop a broad understanding of the connections between themselves, the content, and the world. Understanding why makes the learning authentic, relevant, and facilitates the internalization of the knowledge. At first, this might be done explicitly by asking students, why do you think we are learning about governments or the human body? They begin to think about reasons, purpose. They begin to think critically about the impact of that particular thing on them, their families, and the communities in which they live. With time, those connections will grow to be complex, inclusive, and deeply integrated. And as students better understand how the learning affects them, they will become more engaged, which of course is our ultimate goal. Let's take a look at how those factors apply to various classroom scenarios. Let's start with a whole class teacher-led context. Often the educator provides guidance or direction in most or all of the 6 W's. In an elementary classroom, particularly younger grades, instruction is direct and simple, and activities are short in duration, as most students are developing new skills for the first time. Alternatively, in a high school setting, say in a science lab, when demonstrating a potentially dangerous experiment, you might also choose to deliver the lesson one time to the entire class. In either case, there are good reasons to apply a whole class teacher-led approach. As you begin to invite students to influence their own learning, the environment becomes blended. A place where educator and student share decision-making responsibility. Most often, we start by encouraging our learners to choose where, when, how, and with whom they learn. Again, those strategies we noted before, problem-based, inquiry-based design thinking, they all allow students degrees of independence and voice. But it is until we push our learners and ourselves to invite student choice in the what and the why factors that we provide truly personalized learning opportunities. Personalized learning takes a blended environment just a few steps further to where students are driving all aspects of their learning. When chosen by you or with the students, the strategies that we just looked at facilitate blended learning. But when students are left to determine exactly what approach they want to use to explore a topic or topics, we have then moved into a true personalized learning environment. Does that mean in a personalized environment students are left to determine everything? No. Educators play a critical role in determining when the students are ready for fully personalized opportunities. And as activators of learning, you also help create the 21st century culture and provide access to the supports and resources that learners need to succeed. And you effectively facilitate the transfer of responsibility. Transfer of responsibility. What exactly does that mean? Well, in SunWest, we believe that in order to truly engage learners and to ensure that they can deeply explore areas of interest, as well as the outcomes defined by the curriculum, that they must have voice and choice in their learning. That we, the educators, must take steps to transfer responsibility to the learners at a pace, time, and opportunity that makes sense. Ideally, transfer of responsibility encompasses 3 key terms: deliberate, gradual, and between. Deliberate means to do intentionally, carefully, and with thought. Gradual meaning slowly or by degrees, and it does not imply 100% or right now. And between, by definition, means the space separating 2 points. It does not suggest one way or the other. So responsibility can shift from educator to learner, but for any number of reasons, it can shift back as needed. Transfer of responsibility is highly dependent on an individual learner's age, maturity, capacity, and skill level. What is important to note is that in any of the learning environments that we've described, transfer of responsibility can start to happen. Student voice can begin to play a role in whole class teacher-led environment, and as blended and then personalized learning happens, that voice gets louder and has more influence. Another way to think about moving along the learning continuum is with an I do, we do, you do frame of mind. I do, from the teacher's perspective, means that you're making most or all of the 6W decisions. We do means students and teachers share the responsibility for those decisions. And you do means that students largely drive their own learning to achieve both personal and academic goals. But wait! There's one misconception about Pebble and transfer of responsibility that we want to put to rest. It is about technology and its role in blended or personalized learning. We've already mentioned it, but we're going to make sure that the point did not go unnoticed. Technology may or may not be incorporated into any of these learning environments. It is not required or mandatory. In today's world, technology provides unlimited access to information, but it is not the determining factor in student-led learning. This is perfectly demonstrated at our Hatterian colony schools. They are making great strides towards personalized learning, and all but one of those colonies abstain from using technology altogether. Technology is a tool or support, not a strategy. So let's recap. There are 6 factors: where, when, who, how, what, and why, to take into consideration when designing learning experiences. We all do this naturally, but for the purposes of differentiating between blended and personalized learning, we have explicitly named them in this video. As we move from whole class teacher-led environments towards a blended or personalized environment, student voice and choice is increasingly present when determining each factor. And remember this, we believe, and empirical data demonstrates, that personalized learning results in highly engaged learners, a deeper and more internalized foundation of knowledge, and a refined set of interpersonal skills. We want our schools and our students to head in this direction. But we know that not every situation best lends itself to fully personalized learning, nor would we suggest that you should strive to accomplish that at all times. The role of educator in today's world is to facilitate the deliberate and gradual transfer of responsibility, all the while being an activator of learning. To create the environment and facilitate access to resources that allow individual students to do their best learning. You might incorporate blended strategies or the personalized learning philosophy in some areas of your teaching, but not others. And that's okay too. Our goal is to continue to grow as a staff and a school division, to push ourselves to engage in new and exciting opportunities, and to invite students to be more active in their own learning. One thing we ask you to keep in mind is that parents are not familiar with these terms and don't think about education as something personalized. Most of today's parents grew up sitting in desks and rows, learning at the same time, pace, and place of all of their classmates. So we have some work to do to help them become more familiar with the language and the concepts of personalized learning. And that is work we all have to tackle together. As a division, we will continue to produce the tools, graphics, and presentations to communicate to families, but the most effective way to help a parent understand is by seeing it with their own eyes, or at the very least hearing it from you. So we encourage you to keep your doors open, literally and figuratively. Invite parents into your schools and classrooms to witness blended and personalized learning in action. Use parent-teacher conferences as opportunities to discuss how their child has voice and choice in his or her learning. And if you want support in explaining why we've headed down this path, refer them to www.sunwestpebble.ca or ask your Pebble mentor for support. We want parents to not only feel comfortable with what education looks like today, but to embrace it and support their child and you in any way that they can. We believe that great teaching happens in SunWest classrooms. Our goal is to share those successes and support each other along the way.